Some people are not obsessed with productivity. They are attached to what constant doing protects them from. Picture this. A Sunday afternoon, the weather is good, nothing is wrong, no deadline, no emergency, no real reason to rush. And yet, a few minutes into sitting down, the hand moves to the phone. The inbox gets checked. Nothing urgent. The phone goes down. 30 seconds later, it comes back up. The couch gets abandoned. Something gets cleaned. Something gets planned. Something gets answered that could have waited. The stillness lasts less than a minute before the body is moving again. Most people never question this. They call themselves productive, disciplined, the kind of person who does not waste time. But what if the movement is not really about getting things done? What if it is about what begins to surface the moment they go still? Most people think busyness is a time management problem. They think the answer is a better routine, a better planner, better boundaries, a cleaner system. But for many people, the system is not the real issue. The busyness just keeps finding a new form. One week it looks like work. The next week it looks like errands. Then self-improvement. Then endless optimization. Then helping other people. Then preparing for things that have not even happened yet. Because sometimes busyness is not mainly about productivity. Sometimes it is a regulation strategy, a way of staying ahead of feelings, thoughts, memories, or questions that get louder in stillness. In this video, we are going to look at 3 things. First, what constant doing is doing emotionally for people who cannot seem to stop. Second, why rest can feel uncomfortable, guilty, or even threatening instead of peaceful. And third, what this pattern quietly costs over time. This is not really a video about doing less. It is a video about why stopping can feel so difficult in the first place. Let's start with what this pattern actually looks like. Because it does not always look dramatic. It does not always look like panic or visible stress. Sometimes it looks like competence. These are the people who always have a project, who fill their weekends before Friday arrives, who answer messages quickly, who volunteer for the extra responsibility, who feel uneasy when a day opens up with nothing in it. They are often praised for this: reliable, efficient, driven, someone who gets things done, and the praise becomes part of the pattern. Because moving feels admirable, useful starts to feel very close to safe. Then something interrupts the momentum. A canceled plan, a quiet evening, a free afternoon, a day off with nowhere to be. For some people, that feels like relief. For others, it feels like restlessness, not a clear problem, just the sense that they should be checking something, fixing something, preparing something. They do not always know why the unease shows up. They just know that a quiet hour can start to feel strangely heavy. So they reach for movement, a task, a screen, a list, an errand, a reason to stay occupied. And one of the easiest socially rewarded ways to avoid your inner life is to stay busy. Nobody says you seem to be using productivity to stay away from yourself. They say, I do not know how you do it all. They say, you are amazing at staying on top of things. They say, I wish I had your discipline. And the person smiles and picks up the next thing. So what is it that stillness threatens to reveal? Because avoidance always moves away from something. And for the chronically busy, it is usually not the work itself they are attached to. It is what the work prevents. Sometimes it prevents anxiety from getting louder. Sometimes it prevents grief from being felt. Sometimes it prevents the mind from asking questions the person does not feel ready to answer. Sometimes it prevents a deeper recognition that the life they are maintaining may not feel the way they hoped it would. Stillness for these people is not neutral. It is exposure. It is where unresolved things begin to rise, the grief that was never fully processed, the loneliness hidden inside a full schedule, the fear that without productivity, there may be nothing obvious proving their worth, the uncomfortable possibility that if they stopped long enough to look at their life clearly, they might have to admit that something important has been missing. Not necessarily success, not necessarily love, not necessarily direction. Sometimes just contact with themselves. And so the doing continues, not always because they love it, but because it protects them from what silence makes harder to avoid. The busyness is not the problem. The busyness is the strategy. And strategies that bring relief can become very hard to question, especially when the world keeps rewarding them. Patterns like this usually begin long before adulthood, long before the demanding job, long before the packed calendar. Often they begin in environments where worth became tied to usefulness, not always in dramatic ways, sometimes in homes where achievement mattered more than feeling, where being easy, capable, calm, or helpful made life smoother for everyone else, where children quietly learned that the version of themselves that created the least friction received the most approval. Children learn quickly, and many of them absorb rules they never consciously name. Be useful. Do not be too much. Do not add to the chaos. Earn your place. Make yourself easy to carry. Over time, those rules stop feeling like rules. They start feeling like reality. And the adult who lives by them does not experience constant doing as a choice. They experience it as normal. Because somewhere deep in the system, stillness became associated with vulnerability, and usefulness became associated with safety. If that is the structure underneath, then rest does not feel innocent. It feels undeserved, not because the person is irrational, but because some part of them learned very early that value had to be demonstrated. And doing became one of the fastest ways to demonstrate it. For people like this, productivity is not just practical. It becomes emotional proof, proof that they matter, proof that they are not falling behind, proof that they are carrying their weight, proof that they deserve their place in the room. What makes this harder is that the pattern is not just mental, it becomes physical. When someone has spent years living in a state of constant activation, the nervous system begins to treat that state as familiar, as baseline, as safe, and stillness, by contrast, starts to feel unfamiliar, not necessarily dangerous in an obvious way, just wrong. This is why telling someone like this to just relax rarely works. Because the body may interpret stillness as exposure before the mind has even had time to explain what is happening. The moment activity drops, something underneath gets louder, and so the hand reaches for the phone. A new task gets started. Something gets organized, something gets checked, not because the person lacks discipline, but because the system is trying to return to what feels regulated. Protecting the person from feelings they do not yet know how to meet. For some people, even quiet can feel agitating, not peaceful. Agitating, because peace is not what their system expects. Their system expects movement. It expects low-level tension. It expects the next thing. And when that next thing is missing, the absence itself starts to feel uncomfortable. So they call it laziness to sit still, or wasted time, or lack of ambition, when in reality they may be experiencing something much more difficult, the loss of a coping mechanism that has been helping them stay one step ahead of themselves. And yet there is always a cost. The first cost is presence. When your mind is always moving toward the next task, it becomes hard to fully arrive anywhere. A meal, a walk, a quiet evening, a conversation. Your body may be there, but part of you is already leaving. The second cost is self-knowledge. If you never stay still long enough to hear yourself clearly, you can spend years building a life without ever becoming intimate with the person living it. You learn how to function, you learn how to perform, you learn how to carry. But you do not necessarily learn what you actually feel, what you actually want, or what kind of life feels true when no one is watching. The third cost is that time stops feeling lived and starts feeling managed. Every hour becomes something to optimize, fill, or justify. Rest becomes recovery for future productivity. Even peace gets turned into utility. Life, experienced this way, begins to feel efficient rather than real. This is one of the strangest tragedies of chronic busyness. From the outside, it can look like a very successful life. From the inside, it can feel like a life that is rarely fully inhabited. A life maintained well, a life administered well, a life kept in motion, but not always a life deeply lived. Here is the paradox. The people who feel most driven to stay busy are often the ones who most need stillness, not because stillness is morally superior, but because the things they are avoiding do not disappear when they are outrun. They wait, and the longer they are avoided, the more powerful they seem. What once felt like a solution slowly becomes its own kind of prison. The more a person avoids stillness, the more stillness begins to feel dangerous. The more they fill their life, the harder it becomes to hear what all that filling was protecting them from. At some point, the question is no longer whether busyness works. The question is what it is costing you to need it this much, because a strategy can be effective and still be expensive. It can help you survive while quietly separating you from your own life. So what does change actually look like? Usually, not dramatic transformation, not someone suddenly becoming perfectly calm, not someone who instantly loves silence. It starts much smaller. It starts with noticing the reaching, noticing the impulse to fill every open space, noticing how quickly the mind turns a free moment into a task, and then asking without judgment, what am I moving away from right now? That question matters, because a pattern cannot change until it is seen, and it cannot be seen until there is enough stillness to observe it. What many people eventually discover is that the thing they feared in the quiet is not always as unbearable as the running made it seem. The grief is painful, but survivable. The emptiness is uncomfortable, but informative. The loneliness says something, the anxiety says something, even the guilt says something. And none of it becomes clearer while it is being outrun. What changes is not that a person becomes fearless. What changes is that they become a little more willing to remain with what appears, a little longer than yesterday, long enough to notice, long enough to hear, long enough to stop confusing discomfort with danger. And that is usually how real change begins, not with a grand breakthrough, with a pause, with honesty, with the smallest possible act of staying, with 10 extra seconds in the silence, then 20, then maybe a minute, long enough for a person to realize that what rises in stillness is not always there to destroy them. Sometimes it is there to tell the truth. So here is the reframe. If resting makes you feel guilty, it does not automatically mean you are lazy, weak, or broken. It may mean you learned to experience doing as safety. It may mean usefulness became tangled up with worth. It may mean your system learned that movement keeps difficult things at a distance. The busyness was not a character flaw. It was a strategy, and in many cases, an intelligent one. It helped you function. It helped you stay ahead of pain. It helped you feel structured, justified, and less exposed. But strategies built for survival are not always built for living. And there is a difference between a life that is full and a life that is inhabited. Full is easy to admire. Full is rewarded. Full looks impressive from the outside, but inhabited is different. Inhabited means you can stay with yourself long enough to know what is actually there, what hurts, what matters, what you have been protecting, what you have been postponing. Perhaps the goal is not simply to do less. Perhaps the goal is to notice what the doing has been for. Because once you can see that clearly, a different kind of choice becomes possible. The difference between moving because you want to and moving because you are afraid to stop. That difference changes everything. A lot of people who struggle to rest are not shallow people. They are often deeply feeling people who learn to express that depth through effort, responsibility, and output. The feeling never disappeared. It just got buried under motion. And maybe that is why stopping can feel so strange. Not because there is nothing inside, but because there is so much. If this made you feel seen, you are not alone. You do not have to become a different person overnight. You may only need to pause long enough to notice what the movement has been protecting you from. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.